welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. Well, tonight I want to talk about something that I think needs to be talked about. Not a lot of people are going to talk about it, so I'm going to put it out there because that's kind of what I do. I'm always kind of doing the things that I guess other people don't want to do, or they're scared to skirt on those topics, whatever the case may be. And that is, vaccines, how your body works, virology, all of these things. And this whole thing spawned, like last year I didn't know too much about virology and vaccines specifically, because there's a lot of, you read some things that they're the most awful things in the world, you read other things and they're the saviors of mankind, etc. And I'm just like, look, truth's usually in the middle somewhere, right? But now talking about viruses and talking about vaccines and talking about virology and how the body works seems to be a sensitive subject. And I'm like, since when did science become a sensitive subject, right? Since when did biochemistry, human biochemistry, tend to be something that people get upset about, right? They get emotional about. There shouldn't be any emotion or sensitivity issues about human biochemistry. There just shouldn't. But the way that we're being played by the media and stuff like that, people argue back against it, and they're more apt to not listen to what I'm about to say right now, which I completely understand, because coming from me, why listen to me? You should go out and research it yourself. So about almost a year ago, I think it was in June around then, I had a discussion with a close friend of mine, and we were talking about vaccines, we were talking about kids. And my question basically was, well, if your kid is vaccinated and he goes to school, why do you give a shit if the other kids are vaccinated, right? And we had this discussion about how, what if, the kid is vaccinated, but what if the kid brings home the virus to one of the parents, and one of the parents has a compromised immune system, which that's a whole different argument. I never looked at it that way because I don't have a compromised immune system. My wife doesn't, it's just not in our realm, right? So I said, okay, that makes total sense. Now, my first course of action would probably be to have the parent vaccinated, right? The person that has the compromised immune system, have them vaccinated so that no matter what, they won't succumb to, whatever this virus, disease, whatever the case may be that these kids have in the school. Now, this is a totally hypothetical situation, right? None of this is real, right? So my question was, again, if you have the little kid who is not vaccinated, you have the little kid who is vaccinated, and then you have the parent that is not vaccinated, and V, right? This kid can give it to this kid, which this kid will never feel it, but then he could give it to the parent could die. That's how that could work, right? And that's a valid argument, it's a valid excuse. Until I delved into virology with the biochemistry. Once I jumped into that and I started really digging, I found some really interesting stuff, because this made total sense to me, and I agreed with him. I said, yeah, that actually makes total sense. So I think that all kids should be vaccinated. And then I started to change my mind a little bit because I learned this. So in no specific disease, right? But we're going to have to use the one that's around right now, COVID, right? That's the one that's around right now, the vaccine, vaccinated, etc. So you have the virus, right? And you have the person that the virus can infect, right? Now here's the thing. This virus, when it gets inside the person, right? So you have the virus here, and you have a healthy cell here. What this virus will do is find the healthy cell, attach itself to that healthy cell, and start destroying that healthy cell. And as it's doing this, it's like the gremlins. It starts replicating itself, right? So now what happens, you have all these other viral cells, right? These all have the V's on them. They're all viral cells. And what they do is they start floating around and finding the other healthy cells and start attaching themselves to the other healthy cells, and the same process happens. Then these start to replicate. And eventually they take over so many of the healthy cells that the body has an immune response. It starts to make something called antibodies. Right? Antibodies. That's the one that we hear a lot now. Antibodies. We need antibodies. And that's what the vaccine, these Pfizer vaccines, Moderna's, they create antibodies supposedly. Now, antibodies come and they stop this from happening. They start killing these cells off, right? We also have something called T cells. Now, here's the important one. T cells. This is one that we got to pay attention to. These are going to come into play in a big, big way, right? Now, your body also makes these helper cells, these T cells, these killer cells, which identify the infected cells and destroy them. They eliminate them, okay? So now what happens is these work together so fast, they destroy all these cells. And as new cells are replicated, they're destroying those cells also. So basically, it doesn't allow your body to replicate those cells inside from the virus to kill the healthy cells. It stops that from happening. Now, over a period of time, the antibodies kind of go away, right? Because this invader is no longer in your body. So as these go away, it leaves behind some of the troops, the T cells. These T cells immediately recognize that virus, those infected cells, if it comes in the body again. And if you got one infected cell, right? This is the crazy part, right? And I'm breaking it down to very simple terms. There's a lot more complicated shit that goes to this, but the simpler the better, so that we understand this, right? So we have the T cells right here, right? So we have the virus that gets in the body, and we have the healthy cell here. This virus wants to infect this. This T cell, that eliminates that immediately. So not only does it never get to attach itself to the healthy cell and make you sick, it also never gets to replicate because the T cells kill it so fast. So now, not only can you not spread it, but you also can't get it because of these T cells that your body can have. So when you have a virus, you have these T cells, you have these infected cells, you have these healthy cells. These T cells are important for long-term health because they take care of these infected cells that take care of the healthy cells and never allow the healthy cells to get taken over. So you technically have this army of T cells that not only recognize the infected cells, but variants of the virus. It recognizes those and kills those too, which means all new variants and mutations, there is a crossover immunity. It recognizes all of those T cells, and it stops all of those at the same time. So now, even if you got the virus again in your body somehow, these T cells stop you from spreading it and stop you from getting it ever again, including the variants. Interesting, right? That's how our bodies actually work. That's how a healthy immune system actually works. Now here's, knowing this stuff right here, right? Okay. Now we're gonna go back to the kids in school again. So the kid that gets vaccinated in school, right? His body now has antibodies created in it and has the T cells, right? So remember, the T cells and the antibodies attack this virus. So now if little Billy, right, has a virus, right? And little Tommy, we're gonna get Tommy over here. Little Tommy has had the vaccine, right? And now he has T cells and now he has antibodies. When he comes in contact with little Billy, little Timmy, little Billy come in contact with each other, little Timmy can no longer get or spread that virus, despite Billy having the virus and it getting back in his body. Because those T cells, remember, you have the T cells and you have the antibodies that are fighting that infection. Now, when little Tommy goes home and mom or dad, who has the compromised immune system, he can also not give it to them. It is not in the body long enough to replicate or catch onto the healthy cells or spread. Your infection is spread and is contagious during the replication process. After the replication process is done, you are no longer able to spread that virus like that. Unless somebody, you had some spit on the table or something and somebody picked up the spit and put it in their mouth. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are ways it can be done, but you're not gonna be able to just go home and give it to that parent. Interesting, right? So now you have this whole aspect that the vaccine has basically cured, has solved that problem. So now I kind of look at it like, okay, here's the deal. We have kids that are vaccinated, we have kids that are not vaccinated. Some parents believe in them, some people don't. I personally, I've had all my vaccines as a kid, right? My parents had me vaccinated. I, however, do not get flu shots. I have not had a flu shot, I think, since I was a teenager. I do not take antibiotics. I choose to do everything in a natural way. I choose to keep my body's immune system strong, and I choose to do things a different way. Now, last time I took antibiotics, I was in the hospital with pneumonia and I was almost dying, and Levaquin saved my life. Now, why do you think that Levaquin saved my life? And the doctors even said this is probably not going to do anything, but we'll give it to him anyways, because Levaquin isn't really that strong. However, my body, by not taking in antibiotics all the time, When you give it an antibiotic, it works, and it works effectively, and it's strong. Whereas these people that are out there, every time they get a sniffles, they go out and get a Z-Pack. Well, eventually the Z-Pack stop working, and then you get into real infection. The doctor gives you the Z-Pack, it doesn't work. Then you got to take this one, that one. You get resistant to these antibiotics. You build up a tolerance, quote unquote, to it, but you get resistant to these antibiotics, and they don't work. So when you need them for a life-saving situation, you've been taking them for the sniffles. Like, your body's not going to react the same way. Your body has a defense system, and it has to be exercised, right? Just like everything else, to stay strong, which means you need to come in contact with other viruses, with other germs, with other bacteria. You have to let your body naturally fight those off and build up its natural immune system to those to stay healthy long term. You can't just keep popping pills for the rest of your life. But that brings us back down to, little Billy, little Timmy in class again. Now, if you really want to be safe, and again, I'm not pro-vax, I'm not anti-vax, I'm pro-choice. You do whatever the fuck it is you think you need to do. You need the vaccine? Fine. You don't need the vaccine? Fine. I don't give a shit. It is not a moral thing. It is not a personal thing. It is a do whatever the fuck you think you need to take care of yourself thing, okay? But if you have a family of 3, you have, little Timmy, you have dad, and you have mom. Yeah, I know, I'm quite the artist, right? If you all get the vaccine, then you are all safe from whatever little Billy has at school that he may come in contact with little Tommy. That's the solution. The solution is not argue about Timmy and Billy, whether or not they could be friends. It's not to argue about whether Billy's parents are doing the right thing because they didn't get him vaccinated, or they're crazy because they don't appreciate vaccines, or whatever the case may be. It's not about starting a bunch of shit and teaching your kids the wrong thing, because what I'm telling you is science. What I'm telling you is fact. What I'm telling you is not emotional. There's no emotion based to it. It's not based on what your feelings are. It's not based on what you think is going on. This is based on real science. This is how the body really works. This is how your body has always worked. This is how your body will always work unless you alter it some way. But arguing and making these two enemies because one got vaccinated, one didn't, doesn't make any sense. Vaccinate your whole family. Do the whole family, and you're good to go. As long as you've had that vaccine, doesn't matter whether you're a compromised immune system or not, that virus cannot replicate inside your body. If it can't replicate, it can't take over, kill the healthy cells. If it can't do that, you can't get it and you can't die. It's that simple. It literally is that simple. But the process, I think that a lot of people don't get is they think that, well, if we've had the vaccines and they haven't, we can still catch what they have. And that's actually not true. That's actually not true. As long as your body functions with the T cells, you've had the vaccines, etc., that's not true. Now, I don't know where that came from. It was news to me. I didn't understand. I thought, that's the way it works. So I went and looked into it, and it actually doesn't work that way. So my question then was, why are there so many parents arguing out there about having their kids not going to school with kids that are not vaccinated? If your kid get the vaccine, he can no longer get sick, and he can no longer spread it, which means he can't bring it home to the parents. He can no longer get sick. Even if the parents didn't have the vaccine, if your kid was vaccinated, he has T-cell immunity, he has antibodies. Those will take care of that virus before he ever gets home, and you will not get it. If you're still worried about it, vaccinate the entire family. Now you're good to go. That's how that actually works. So why are we arguing again about trying to force people to do something they didn't want? Right? They said, no, I want my kid's natural immunity to fight it off. And that's fine too. That's what I do. That's okay. Having a difference in opinion doesn't change science. Having a difference of opinion in the way that you live your life doesn't change the fact that this is biochemistry and what happens in your body. All it does is change what you're doing to these two kids, right? Because the parents, they may not even know each other. They can fight, they can argue. That's what adults do, whatever. They can never see each other the rest of their lives and they don't care. However, these kids got to be together for the next 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever the case may be. They're going to go through school together. They're going to go on field trips together. They're going to go through school dances together. They're going to wind up dating each other. Like, they're going to be stuck together. And the parents are arguing with the other parents, which puts the pressure on the kids and alienates the kids. And that causes a problem because it's based on false reality. It's based on bullshit. It's not based on something real. So I feel like if the parents really educated themselves, they could educate the kids, then these two wouldn't, or he wouldn't be scared of him, right? Because there's nothing wrong with him. Just choosing a different way to deal with it. Maybe he eats better food. Maybe he exercises more. Maybe his weight is not up. Maybe his parents, use different herbs and stuff to heal him, like echinacea, golden seal, instead of antibiotics. Well, the kid's still alive, obviously, so they're figuring out how to make things work because they're in the same class as your kid and they're doing the same things. So regardless of whether he was vaccinated or not, he's still a human being, and he's getting by just like your kid is, just in a different way. So the goal is, we should be bringing people together. Vaccines are a beautiful thing for some people. They're the devil to others. Other people like me, I'm partial to them. If I needed one, I would take it. I guarantee you, if I took it because I needed it, it would work for my body because my body is very natural all the time. So if you add something that is needed, that there's no tolerance to, or there's no receptor downgrade, or whatever happens, it's going to create a different environment, somebody that takes something all the time, just like the antibiotics. So now I'm not against antibiotics. So if something happens, I get really sick, I'll take an antibiotic from the doctor and it'll work. It won't be one of these things where they'll try 3, 4, 5 different ones and they get worse and worse and worse, possibly have complications or die because the drugs won't work because my body's used to them. It's built up a tolerance to them. It's downgraded. It's desensitized, whatever you want to call it. So the bottom line is, guys, before we argue, before we fight, before we throw emotion into all of this shit, think about it for a second. There's no emotion in mathematics. There's no emotion in science. There's no bullshit that you can put in both of those where you can try to say one side or the other. You can say, look, this is how this works. Now, you can look at history and argue about history, how things went. You can, be in gym class or sports and argue about sports in gym class and stuff like that if you want. But these are solid basics: math, arithmetic, numbers, and science. Those are things that are steadfast and they are open up to debate. However, we're not looking at something new here. We're looking at something that we know about. We're looking at something that humans understand at a very deep level, and we're able to save lives by vaccinating people because we understand virology and how those things work. We understand disease. We understand how the body fights back and reacts to a foreign invader. We understand that stuff. So if you're attaching emotion to it and you're getting upset about it, take a step back and wonder why. Is it really that you want your family to be safe? Because if you want your family to be safe, you vaccinated everyone in your family, you're safe. You took care of your family, you did your job for your family. Or is it that you want everyone to comply because you feel emotionally that everybody should get a vaccine, or everybody should take antibiotics, or everybody should do this, should do that, because that's the way that you live? Now, that's a whole different ballgame than somebody being safe from someone else. Emotion and the fact that you want things and things are not being done the way you want and you're upset about it, that's not science, okay? That's just you in your own head, wanting other people to be like you. That's not okay, right? You be you. You let them be them. But make no qualms about it. Don't get it twisted. This kid right here, as long as your kid has the vaccine, as long as your family has the vaccines, you're safe from this kid. He's not scary. He's not evil. He's not going to kill you. He's not the devil. He's not here to take down your whole family and everybody in it, right? He's a little kid being a little kid. And then when you stop and think about that for a second, little kids are supposed to get sick. Little kids are supposed to get over that sickness. That's how they build up their immunities for later on in life. So that's a good thing that this kid is doing, right? Now, I'm not saying that one way or the other, one way is right, one way is wrong. This is a good way to do it, and so is this a good way to do it. But the bottom line is understanding this stuff and not having emotional attachment to how the body works. Think about that for a second. Being so irate and so mad that you want to fight or hurt someone because you don't understand how the body works, when we have all this information at your fingertips. Like, before you start an argument, maybe you can delve into the stuff that I'm talking about here, the virology. I mean, I sat there and took a year to do it before I made this video. I went over things and over things, over things. I learned a lot about T-cell immunity. I learned a lot about antibodies. I've learned a lot about how viruses replicate. I've learned about a lot of this stuff. And I've learned that there are a lot of natural things that stop viruses from replicating in your body. Fulvic acid is one of them, right? Shilajit is another one. These things stop viruses, especially, get this, Shilajit, especially respiratory viruses. Stops it from replicating once it gets in your body. So there are natural things that stop these things from happening that could help you stay healthier during a flu season or something like that. But to say that because the kid wasn't vaccinated and my kid was, it's going to kill my whole family would be a false statement. It's not true. It's not science. There's nothing backing that up. There's nothing saying that would ever happen like that. But also saying that, this kid is going to die because he didn't get the vaccine is also a false statement. Bottom line is everybody has to make the choices for them and their family that is the best idea and ideals for them. But at the same time, please don't disregard the actual science. I keep hearing people say, follow the science, follow the science, follow the science. Well, this is science and nobody's talking about this. This is science and very few people actually understand this. This is science and people are not even trying to understand this. All they're doing is looking about, well, that person's scary, that person's scary. Then they're pointing fingers at other people and trying to keep everybody safe by staying away from everybody. And I'm like, look, science, if we understood that, I think there'd be a lot less fear. Less fear, there'd be less attacking. Less attacking, there'd be more people getting along. and then Tommy and Billy can become friends for life instead of being torn apart by two sets of parents fighting and arguing about whether one should be vaccinated, one shouldn't, whether or not one's going to kill the entire family, one family's stupid, the other one's not stupid, or this family thinks the vaccine family's stupid, the vaccine family thinks they're stupid. It's a big thing. You know what it is? It's two kids in school trying to fucking be people. Okay, that's the bottom line. Science says they're both fine. Why did the parents have such an issue with it? I guess that's the question. And I guess the whole take home and the answer to it is neither sets of parents should have an issue with it. Both parents should be happy that everybody is safe based on what they decided was right for their family. Something to think about, guys. And again, like I said, don't take my word for this. Look up T-cell immunity. Look up antibodies. Look up how long these things last. Look up what they do, how they work. And I think it's an eye-opener to many people. My mom actually used the antibody and T-cell immunity when she was almost forced to get the COVID vaccine. Now, they are saying if you have had the virus, do not get the vaccine. If you have allergies, don't get the vaccine. My mom had COVID and got over it. That doctor still pushed that vaccine on her. She got over COVID 100%, no problem whatsoever. She asked about antibodies, and the doctor's response was, oh, they don't last. They were ready to shoot it down. Her next question was, tell me about my T-cell immunity. And the doctor, who was taken off guard, was like, how do you know about T-cell immunity? Like, did you take some classes? Did you go to school for medicine? Like, how did you know about that? And she said, my son told me. I told her. After telling my mom what T-cells are, how they work, and what they do, the doctor who was trying to force the vaccine on my mom then agreed, we don't know how your body beat it. You have cancer. You shouldn't have been able to beat it. However, you beat it. And now the fact that you beat it and it's gone, you have antibodies for a certain period of time. And they're looking at now about 9 months, they're saying, minimum, that you have these antibodies. And after the antibodies are gone, the T cells are there. So you have T-cell immunity, those helper killer cells. You don't need the vaccine. And they just let it go just like that. Now, don't you think if that vaccine was imperative for my mom living, that doctor would have had something to go against the T-cells and force my mom to get the vaccine if she was supposed to get it? The doctor went back into a corner, put his hands up, and he gave up. He said, you're right. You got T-cell immunity, da-da-da-da. He couldn't argue with it because he didn't know how much she actually knew about it. He didn't know if he said the wrong thing, if she was going to come back firing with a whole lot more information, shutting him down, and then she could report to him, to whatever board or whatever is going on, saying that he's negligent because he's giving out false information. Loses his license, that's the end of that. She backed him into a corner with just one single sentence. Tell me about my T-cell immunity. That's all it took for him to reverse his decision about how bad she needs it to survive to, oh yeah, I guess you're fine. Yeah, you don't need it. Like he didn't know. Like it was something that slipped his mind. No, he knew. It was just a matter of being informed. And when you're informed and you understand this stuff, you don't even have to understand it. You just have to have the right keywords to Google it, and then you'll understand it after you read it. But the bottom line is, guys, science and biology and biochemistry is not quackery, okay? It is not bullshit. It is not made up by the news. It is not something that is mystical, magical. It's not bullshit. Science, biochemistry, chemistry, virology, those are things that we understand. Those are things that we should be able to access ourselves, which we can online, and then understand more about our bodies. And when you understand more about your body, then you can protect yourself. And that's what we all need to do, protect ourselves. I'm BioStreet, and I approve this message, and we're out.